Alright, welcome back to the Turbo Addicts channel. Little update for where we stand right now. Last week when I went to go set the timing and I was getting ready to make a video on it, I was getting a no spark situation. I traced it down with the test that it's in my previous video that it was my trigger. So I had a second distributor that had bad bearings in it. And I have a good friend of mine out west in Washington who knows everything about these motors, and he had offered to take the two and turn it into one for me. The two distributors, that is. Because I had a good trigger in the other one, but bad bearings. This one had bad trigger and good bearings. Well, send it out to him, and he has all the Merc tools, and come to find out that neither distributor is bad. So he called me as soon as they got there and said both distributors great, and he rebuilt my other distributor for me. So I have two good distributors. So I went ahead and bolted everything back up, and while I was doing it, I did a couple spark tests. I'm getting spark, so that's a good sign. So here we are today, and we're going to set the primary pickup, the first start of all this. And the first thing that you do is that you need to set your motor to top dead center. That's the crankshaft and the number one piston, which I did, and I have a video on how to get there with it, how to do it. If you look through my videos, there's setting top dead center. And the second thing you do is you line the arrow up on the distributor. It's underneath the little cap. You got to take the shroud off. There's a cap on the distributor. There's an arrow that you point to the center line of the crankshaft. That'll put you at 0. And you drop your flywheel in with your 0 mark pointing at your timing pointer. I do not have a timing pointer, so I have made up a piece of tape, as you can see here. And I'm at 0 TDC right now. So if you line it up just right and look at it, you can see my arrow points at 0. I'll kind of zoom in a little bit for you so you can see it. Alakazam, right? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this together, and we're going to begin to set the timings and the wide open and all the good stuff that you need to do before you start these motors. A lot of people call it the Lincoln Sync, whatever. This is the way to do it without a timing light. This is a tried and true method from a man that I absolutely trust with these motors. A lot of you guys, if you're on a lot of other forums and stuff, you'd probably know him as Dr. Frankenmerk. I'm not going to give out his name. He's passed along this knowledge to me with all the help that I've gotten with this motor, and I don't know how I can repay this man. Super thankful for everything that he's done. So anyway, back onto the subject here. So we're going to go ahead and set the primary pickup. What you want to do is take the idle stop plate off. Looks like this, okay? And it bolts on here and all this bullshit. There's a ground strap that goes from here to here, okay? You want to take that off, and you want to have everything hooked up. You don't want to hook up your battery, but we're not starting the motor, so don't get too excited. I'm going to make sure that I have this bolted down and my grounds attached. I'm going to get the key in on, the battery hooked up, and I'm going to show you what we're searching for here, okay? All right. Now, the next thing that you need to do, and pay close attention to this, is you can take your number one spark plug off and set it down somewhere near ground. Right there, I'm getting ground. You set your top dead center to 5 and just rotate it to 5. You're going to twist your distributor cap back and forth until you get a spark, okay? And you need to do it lightly. I mean, we're talking this much movement, okay? So I don't know if you can hear this, but I'll try and see if you can hear it. You hear that? Right there? Right there? Right there? All right, what we're looking for is we want to hear that spark, and you just a tiny bit. And you can watch it if you want down there and get it. But up there is the throttle. And what we're wanting to do is see the black arm touch the butterfly arm. And you want it to just move it when you hear the spark. Just like it's doing right there. Okay. If that does that, your primary pickup is correct. If it does not, you have to loosen the screws that are underneath here and twist it to where it does so. When it does that, you can then put your idle stop plate back on. That's the one with the screws and whatnot in it. Okay, now that we have our idle stop plate back on, you have idle stop, let me back up here, throttle stop, and then you have spark advance down here. So what we're going to do now is the exact same process as we did at 5 degrees, but we're rotating to 20 degrees before top dead center. 21 is what it's supposed to be, but with today's gas and whatnot, it's safe to just go ahead and run it at 20. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have your spark plug down there the same way, and you might have to loosen the spark advance screw here to find this spark, but you do the same thing, and you just a little bit. Hear it? I'm not sure if you can. Right there. As soon as that pops, you want to tighten down this spark advance to exactly where that's supposed to be at. That's where you set your spark advance at, for 20 degrees. All right, so now that you set your 5 degrees and your 20 degrees, the next thing that you need to do is you need to set this mamma jamma. Now what this mamma jamma does, and this is called the secondary pickup, what this does is when the distributor starts to rotate, as you can see the bottom's rotating, when that touches, it picks up and goes ahead and turns the top portion, you see? Okay, so the way that you set that is pretty easy. You grab the arm and you start to pull it back. When it stops, when the base of the distributor stops, that's when you tighten this down and lock it into place. After you set that, you're going to set your throttle stop screw, which is the top one. And what you do to do that one is pretty straightforward. You grab the arm, and this will wear you out a little bit. It'll start to hurt your hands and hurt your arms. You pull it as far aft as possible, okay? Once you get it as far aft as possible, you tighten this down and give it just a little bit more than it's just touching, so that it kind of gives the distributor a little bit of room to push the butterflies a little bit further open. And when you do that, the butterflies should be completely open 100%. So next step will be the idle stop, and I want to confirm something on that before I give you guys full instruction. All right, set your idle stop, which I've already done because I'm getting closer and closer and closer. Set your idle stop. What you do is you set your motor, you put your ding thing back to 0 degrees. Once you get back to 0 degrees and you get it to pop on 0 degrees, that's where you set your idle stop at. Then you can go ahead and bolt your distributor link back on, hook up your throttle cable. When you hook up your throttle cable, you want a little bit of pressure going against this idle stop screw. That's where you set a throttle cable at. And she should be ready to start. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten everything down and get ready to fire her up. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe.